What's up, guys? It's James back again, and this weekend New York City had another one of its pretty large IRL large prize pool tournaments. This one was for an Ulti Caius and a bunch of other goodies. It was also free to enter. There were 74 people. This was at Gamer's Choice that I've mentioned a number of times. It's the main locals I go to when I do go, and they put on a number of great events. A similar one to this with an Ulti Caius as a prize. I won back in December. There was also one 2 months ago, 3 months ago that I wasn't able to attend, but I've been doing deck profiles and roundups on all those just because otherwise I think these wouldn't even get posted online. It takes someone to document them, and I'm happy to do it because I think sometimes our scene gets a little passed up or not spotlighted, and I think the players here are very, very talented. We had a lot of really, really good players that have YCS tops, Ultimate Time Wizard tops, etc. in the building this weekend, and I thought I would give them some love. So without further ado, enjoy the lists, and hope this can be a last little testing before nationals, because that's what everyone was talking about there, that we were all prepping for that, and I will be there as well. But let's get right into the lists. So first up, we have me. I top 8 this tournament, and I know what you're thinking, James. This is not a 40 card deck. You have an illegal deck. Did you get a game loss or something? No, I played a full 40 card deck and 15 card side deck in this tournament. But I'm gonna do that really, really annoying thing where I don't show you my deck list. And believe me, I thought a little bit back and forth if I even want to do this video, if I was comfortable sharing, but I played frogs. I played an interesting build of frogs that I've been playing a lot on ladder. I played in a couple tournaments, and I top 8'd this, so it's been doing pretty well. It's unique enough that I don't really feel like I want to share it right before nationals. And look, I know that's gonna annoy some of you who think this is all bullshit, but I promise I will do some in-depth content on this deck after that, or if I decide not to use it. For me, it's still up in the air whether I will use it or not. I will give you some more information that it's a little more combo frog oriented, and also my matchups in this tournament, I believe, were 3 Vayu, 1 Blackwing, which I lost to in the top 8, a Hero Frog, and a GB, and a Chain Burn, and a Diva Hero Beat. So maybe that helps give you guys some sense of what you might play at a larger tournament, especially on the East Coast, but in general, I think. And that's certainly my mindset of how I, was using this as practice. And I'm sorry I can't give you guys more. Like I said, I will totally do some more content in the future, but for now, this is what you're gonna have to live with. I'm sorry, it sucks to suck. But yeah, the deck performed pretty well, is what it is. Got sacked by Blackwing. Moving on, we have some actual deck lists. Now this is Jason G's top 8 Blackwing list. This list is it's pretty teched out, I would say, because you have the 1 main deck Dust Tornado, 1 Dark Illusion, which is a pretty crazy card. One cool thing about this is it can negate your opponent's Sirocco pumps, because that technically targets. And then we have the 1 main deck DDV, 1/1 Jar and Legacy. I've seen some people try stuff like this before, and I think the logic is everyone, I think, has seen in the past couple weeks uptick of Jar and Legacies being played, and probably if they see you activate some of these cards and you're playing Blackwing, they might just assume that you're on the 3/3, and it might make them not target down some of your back rows as quickly. But I think Jason does a pretty smart thing where he can use the Jar, and then his opponent sees that, and they're probably going to assume that he's on 3 Legacy to start with, and then adding the Jar. So they're going to assume he's on at least 4, and it just kind of sets off the alarm bells in their mind as soon as they see the Jar. Agreed, oh, he's playing the really heavy draw trap build. So I think that's kind of an interesting mind game, and it clearly worked out for him because he finished in top 8. There's also a 1 Book Moon and 2 Icarus attack. I know that Jason, I've seen him post online that he sides out of the Icarus attack a lot and doesn't really like playing into, I guess, road, or feels like it's kind of awkward. So interesting to see that he cut down to 2. I don't see a lot of Blackwing players trying that. And his side is also pretty teched out. I guess you can kind of swap in and out these tech picks based on the matchup. But I think it actually makes a lot more sense than you might realize, because I can see how you know, you don't necessarily want a lot of copies of these cards that are sometimes situational, and post-board you can have your deck kind of configured the way you want it. We have Dyna, we have Crow, you know, all the usual suspects are there, just kind of as one of that he's not, making the Solemn. Also got one cheeky Skill Drain and Trap Stun, I guess, for the mirror. So yeah, pretty cool deck by Jason, and yeah, I also did not put in these extra decks. I did all this manually from the physical deck lists, so I didn't feel like doing it, and I think you guys can probably figure out what is in a standard Blackwing extra deck. If not, tweak it to your own desire, but trust me, this one was pretty normal. Next up we have Manny, who and also Jason, I just want to say, the prior player, he's topped a few of these events before, definitely one of our stronger players locally. And now we have Manny, who started playing relatively recently, I believe was playing a lot of advanced before, and has really taken up Edison and been quite a strong performer as far as locals and stuff. I know he's won a couple. I played him at a locals and he got the best of me in a value mirror. So I remember in that match specifically, it kind of underestimated him. Like, I had never played this guy before, and I thought he might, you know, recklessly kind of like flip Raikos on my back rows and get, you know, baited and stuff like that. And to his credit, he didn't really play into that at all. So I was fairly impressed. And it actually, he was my only loss in Swiss of this tournament. I believe he technically went undefeated in Swiss. And he lost out in top 8, unfortunately. But this is, you know, a relatively standard value list. He did not main Solemn Judgment, did not even side it, which I find kind of crazy. I know the no Solemn thing has been a bit of a trend, but I just think, like, if you're going to play something like Pulling the Rug, like, Solemn is just a more versatile Pulling the Rug. I get it costs life points, but I still think, like, Solemn's just too good. But I do like the main deck dev, and 41 cards is interesting. Other than that, fairly standard, you know, monster lineup, 1 Reaper. The side is interesting. Triple Crow, Double Dyna, Kaiku, Minecon Vortex, and yeah, not maxing Dust Tornado, only 1 DDV. But yeah, overall, you know, nothing super crazy about his list, but he does play it very well. I can attest to that. And the Dyna's got me against my Frog deck in game 3. Next up we have Adam, who is also got second at the Ultimate Time Wizard, losing to Eric Shen. He usually plays Amaryllis, but I've also seen him play Blackwing a fair amount. I think he's just trying to, you know, broaden his deck repertoire. But I know Adam is a quite strong player, does very well on the DB ladder, and he is also on Triple Legacy, and the rest of the trap lineup seems pretty standard. That's really the only thing to tweak in this. He is maining the Gores, only 1 value, and he is maining Minecon. Now the side, he neglected Pulling the Rugs completely, which I think is kind of interesting, and then just kind of focused in on the mirror, I would say, and maybe some tech for, I guess, light decks with this lightning bursting mirror. But other than that, fairly standard stuff. These are just proving to be the best decks of the format. You can watch my more recent video to see stuff about that, but you're not seeing a ton of deviation in terms of these side plans, but I guess the little tech picks do matter. So maybe not the most completely exciting list, but this is, I guess, love it or hate it, it is an interesting list, because this is Chainburn. I was able to play this player in the Swiss rounds and got the best of him. I play things like Light and Darkness Dragon that are very strong against Chainburn. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have much of a sense of what is a standard Chainburn list these days, but this looks pretty good to me. The Chain Detonation, I believe it's called, is not a card I normally see played, but I can see how it can just, you know, chunk out some extra damage, especially if you get the add to hand effect. But other than that, you know, you have the 2/2 Wapu Roar split, just to make sure you're not doubling up names on the same chain, and the rest of it's pretty standard. I will say, you know, a couple things about this deck, because I was talking to people at the tournament about it, and they were saying this guy Sean does very well at their locals. I think Chainburn maybe takes you a couple repetitions of playing against it, as I've played against it a bunch on the DB ladder, and then you learn to do some kind of tricky things, like you end up Brianacking your hand size down so they can't burn you with Secret Barrel, or clearing your own guys on board. I even did something like on the chain, he just deserted and I like Regeki Breaked or something, one of my own monsters, just to take less damage. I still ended up losing that game, but you know, we went to game 3. And a kind of a funny story. I feel a little bad for Sean, but as I was getting the deck list, I was gotten knocked out in top 8, and I was getting the deck list, the physical deck list, so I could take some pictures of them and do this all at home. I was talking to the staff of the store, and we were going through kind of trying to read everyone's handwriting. Yu-Gi-Oh players have horrible handwriting, and we found Sean's deck list, and I was looking through it, like, what do you think this says? And we determined that it said Dimension Wall, and in his side he had listed like 1 Dimension Wall and 2 Dimension Wall, and I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. Like, you listed it as 2 separate slots. Like, do you think that's right? And they're like, well, it's definitely weird because he also has 2 Dimension Wall on the main deck, so he's listed 5 Dimension Walls. And then literally as I'm walking out the door, because I had to leave, I was like, I gotta get these deck lists and go. And they're like starting to do a whole investigation and pausing the match. So I felt kind of bad for Sean that I maybe inadvertently caused him to get some kind of penalty. But yeah, obviously not entirely my fault either. But kind of a funny way to end my day. It was like the judges are coming over to pause this match, and I'm just like, all right, see you guys. But yeah, Chamber, what more you say? Kind of a degen deck, I personally. Well, I've played it a few times on ladder. I can't say I'll never play it. But I think once you know how to play against it, and you don't, the big thing that I gave advice to people there, if you don't just swing into their dimension walls, you don't just give them the free burn, then they have a really hard time, I think, getting to 8,000 damage with just their burn spells. You can keep their, their sets locked with the cylinders and dimension walls if you're not swinging in with your Caiuses and stuff like that. You can just wait until you have other outs still. But anyway, next up we have another Blackwing deck. Spoilers, 3 Blackwing in this top 8. Bird format. 3 Blackwing, 2 Bayou, in fact. Spoiler of what's to come. But he is also in Jars and Legacies with 41, and I don't know why he's on the 3rd Legacy over Jar. Maybe some similar reasons to I was describing with Jason, but maybe he also just couldn't find it. I know he was like looking for cards before the tournament. This is Saji, who I also topped the same tournament that I won back in December. So again, we're seeing a bunch of repeat toppers on the local level. So that's, I guess, always a good sign for a healthy format or a skill-based format. And his side is really wonky, to be honest. We got a lot of hate for frogs, but kind of a mishmash of cards. Triple Rug, Karma Cut, 1 Deck Dev, Soul Release, double Vanity Fiend, which is, I gotta say, I have never seen any Blackwing player side Vanity Fiend, period. I've never seen them do this. And wouldn't you know it, in my top 8 match against Saji, he has both Brain Control and Vanity's Fiend as, like, he only had 3 cards total, so 2 of them were those, and he was able to out my Colossal Fighter and put down a Vanity's Fiend. That was very unexpected, to say the least, and was the cause of my losing that game. So this Vanity's Fiend actually knocked me out of the tournament, so say what you want, crazy pick, suboptimal pick, it worked. Hey, it worked. And believe me, I was not happy to see that Vanity's Fiend hit the field. But yeah, I mean, other than that, fairly standard list. No torrential. None of these Blackwing decks main torrential, which is kind of interesting. He also had 1 Cyber Dragon as kind of a tech pick, and 2 of them also had named cores. Now, in second place, we had Aaron, and unfortunately, this is going to be another no-show. I also want to say about my list from a few minutes ago. Honestly, this list is available on the internet if you go look for it or dig hard enough or watch some random ladder matches. You could figure out what I'm playing. I just think it's probably to my best benefit to not put all the information out there right away. And Aaron wanted a similar thing. He requested that directly from me, so I wanted to respect his wishes. And I played him in Swiss. I was actually able to 2-0 him, which is kind of surprising because usually it's a really bad matchup for frogs. But he mains Legacy. That's about all the information I can give you. Other than that, it's honestly not that unconventional of a list. I think he was playing 40 cards as compared to some of the other lists that were like 43. But yeah, I mean, pretty surprising, honestly, to see GBs do so well. I know he's able to beat a bunch of Blackwing and Bayou players as well. So GBs, as I touched on in the last video, making a strong case for kind of being a sleeper pick moving into Nationals. And in first place, we have Ernie, the GOAT. You may know him as the guy who beat me in the finals of the YCS in Richmond, Trap Monies. A very strong player locally. And yeah, he brought his Bayou deck. And I think it's very funny. I think Ernie and I are maybe similar in some types of ways because Ernie is not necessarily, and I don't mean to take anything away from him, but not the strongest performing player on a local level. If we go to locals every week, there are certain players that are, I think, constantly getting first, and Ernie certainly does very well. I do very well when I go too, but not quite putting up the same numbers as some of the other players. But when it comes to these bigger tournaments, some of these other players nowhere to be found, and Ernie consistently crushing it. I know he also won an Ulti Caius in LA. There's a deck profile of that, and I believe this is almost card for card the same list, so I'm not gonna get too in depth into it. It is fairly standard value at the end of the day, but yeah, I think there's maybe just a little bit of clutch factor for both him and myself of like, you know, I'm not taking things as seriously at locals. I'm not metagaming so hard. I'm not, you know, I might be letting people take back plays. I'm just like not really playing to my peak potential, but once it's kind of time to flip that switch and try really hard, then we can both get there. So proud to see Ernie performing well in that environment. Super nice guy. Can't say anything bad about him. And he's on this 41 card list. I know he's been playing that, the double hamster one charge, just slightly upping that count. So if you want to think about that, the charge is a 41st card. I mean, you're adding another kind of starter engine piece, so it's not like it's going to brick you necessarily. And then the side, he ran really heavy on, I think, it looks like Frog hate, but I think it's actually Amaryllis hate because, yeah, the triple Dyna, Vortex, slimming down on the DV, Soul Release, things like that. But I think it has very good coverage, as well as still maintaining some stuff for, you know, blackwings in the mirror and you know, just anything you would need. So I think this is a, you know, very solid list from Ernie. He also played a red dragon in the extra deck since he has room for it. But yeah, I mean, pretty standard, both value lists, so not really too much to say about that. But those are all the decks, and you know, comment below. I'm sure I will receive some negative comments, but I welcome them. You know, I'm happy to duke it out in the comment section with you guys. But let me know if you were at this tournament, if you have any comments on these decks, and also if you're going to be at the NAWCQ, please let me know. Please come up and say hello. I'll probably do a video or two or a stream before then, but I'm happy to chat with anyone who's going to be there. And if you catch that stream, I may even do a little sneak preview of the deck I played there. So peace, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you all at Nationals.